Hi, my name is Rekuram Varadaraj. I go by RV. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer and Head of Data and Analytics at Cloud Kinetics. And it's a pleasure to be here to talk to you about the transformational value that generative AI, also called Gen AI, can bring to your business. We are happy to be able to do this in association with our partners AWS and Intel. It's fair to say that generative AI is at the top of its hype cycle. Businesses expect to realize anywhere between $2.6 to $4.4 trillion as the potential contribution when it comes to generative AI applications to global economy annually. Anywhere up to 75% of organizations believe that it will bring disruptive change to the way they do business, and 65% of the organizations claim that they're already using generative AI. But when you cut through the hype, generative AI, is it just about ChatGPT or chatbots or the latest viral meme that has been created by AI? For enterprises, the potential is much more. It's about automation. It's about the power of analytics. It's the ability for users to be able to search and retrieve information that they were earlier unable to. For organizations, it can mean that users can now create or generate documents, images, and other material which is compliant and follows all the guidelines that enterprises and organizations demand. We are beginning to see generative AI making a great amount of impact when it comes to various industries. Without going into all of them, let me call out a few which stand out. In the retail industry, for example, information about inventory and sales is now readily available. At the click of a mouse, people can now actually go ahead and understand the risks that are associated with their business. The information about suppliers and customer experience is now available to both the supply chain and the marketing departments in ways which are much more user-friendly and which were unfathomable even 6 months back. Even in industries like insurance, you're starting to see the effect of generative AI when it comes to smart claims management. We are beginning to see insurance companies also use intelligent document processing to ensure not only high quality, but also consistency. We have government agencies beginning to use generative AI when it comes to making their services much more user-friendly. Citizens are now able to retrieve information much easier. There are pilots on board to actually go ahead and use document processing even for governments to make the processes associated with submission and retrieval of documents much more user-friendly, and while at the same time ensuring quality controls and speed and accuracy. Even companies which are in the manufacturing sector are beginning to use generative AI to have information readily at their fingertips so that they can make high quality decisions when it comes to planning their inventory and ensuring that there are no risks associated with either their supply chains or their financial outcomes. But as transformational as these business outcomes are, most enterprises struggle with the fact that there is so much hype, and the simple question that is topmost for many CIOs or technology professionals is a very basic one. How do I get started? That actually boils down in turn into many attendant questions. What technology or model should I use? My team's capabilities when it comes to generative AI are limited. I have a roadmap to enhance them, but given this, what can I do now and what should I plan for in the future? Is it going to be really expensive for me to roll out generative AI applications in my organization? I've heard a lot about toxicity and biases. How do I ensure that my generative AI applications that we use in our enterprise do not suffer from these? Is my data going to be safe and secure? Is it going to be shared with anybody else? Are there any other security implications that we know of? All of these are great questions. The reason we are here today is to talk about a simple recipe which will help enterprises develop and deliver generative AI applications which will truly power transformational business outcomes. The first ingredient in the recipe is to actually build what is called a modern data foundation. This modern data foundation will help enterprises actually unlock the power of generative AI. The second part of the recipe is to have a very considered approach and a well-framed approach when it comes to making technology and model choices. And the third and very vital ingredient of this recipe is to be able to use tools and accelerators in order to ensure that you get rapid value when it comes to building generative AI applications and shrink the time from data to insights. The first part of the recipe is about getting your data into a modern data foundation. What does that mean? Often, enterprises have vital data either in various small silos or locked in what we call legacy data stores. These legacy data stores could be ERP systems, which function very well, but make it very difficult to retrieve or integrate data. It could be mainframe or mid-range computers, again, which serve vital business functions, but are difficult to integrate with when it comes to data. It could be that their data is strewn in multiple different places, often with copies, making it very difficult for customers to establish a single source of truth. A modern data foundation solves exactly that. It brings data all together into a single, well-governed, secure, high-quality source of truth, which can then power compelling generative AI applications. Which is why we believe that this is often the foundation of building generative AI applications which could deliver compelling value. The next step, or the second step, is to take a very well-defined approach to making technology and model choices. Here is a sample approach that we use to guide a customer who was making a choice when it comes to building generative AI applications in the AWS ecosystem. As you can see, various factors are considered, including the team's preference, comfort with models, the availability of data, and the economics. We highly recommend that such a structured approach be taken when it comes to evaluating and choosing the most appropriate models and technology stacks to use when it comes to building generative AI applications, because this has a multiplicative effect when it comes to doing so efficiently, both in terms of cost and performance. The third vital ingredient of the recipe is to use platforms and capabilities that will accelerate generative AI application development, shortening the time between data to insights. This could include tools which will help in distributed training. It could be about fine-tuning LLMs. It could be about having inferencing in a cost-efficient and performant manner. The important thing is to be able to use such capabilities and not having to reinvent the wheel. These three steps in conjunction could deliver outstanding value when it comes to building and deploying generative AI applications which are widely used within the intended audience, be it employees within the company or customers outside. With that, let me highlight a couple of solutions that we have developed in association with our partners. The first is a powerful ability for users, in this case employees of a company, to search information buried in documents or any data regardless of where it resides. As you can imagine, this can have vital and key impact when it comes to various industries like finance, insurance, publishing, retail, etc. Not only is information readily available, the ability to search, query, and summarize such information boosts productivity and ensures that users spend time in productive tasks and not searching and cleansing information which is available in various sources. This solution was implemented using this reference architecture that you see here. The key aspects of this architecture are outlined in terms of an open source model, Llama 2 as you can see here, and the Intel chips which are running in the AWS infrastructure and ecosystem. The second solution that I would like to highlight would be what we call smart cataloging and tagging, which has implications and use cases not only in retail and e-commerce, but also in industries like manufacturing. While industries like retail and e-commerce can use this solution to analyze product images, text descriptions, etc., manufacturing customers can actually use this solution to generate product catalogs in a manner that is not only cost efficient, but also high quality and consistent. The solution was again developed using an open source language model, in this case a vision language model with its own extensions, and again powered by Intel chips running on AWS infrastructure. With that, let me hand over to Jason to talk a bit more about the solutions that Intel has to fast track innovation when it comes to generative AI. Over to you, Jason.
My name is Jason. I am the AWS Alliance Director taking care of APJ on behalf of Intel. And today I'm here to just present some of the effort that Intel had done together with Cloud Kinetic in the AI journey and the Gen AI space. Before we jump into the Gen AI space, I think I want to take one step back. I think a lot of people look at the goodness about the Gen AI, but there are aspects for us to consider when we look at Gen AI. The first aspect we should look at is environment impact. We know that Gen AI brings along with a tremendous increase in compute power. That means that you need to use a lot of power, you're going to bring a lot of carbon consumption based on that requirement. Second consideration we want us to look at it seriously is around the time to market and cost to market balance. Ideally, you want to have all your environment with the best GPU environment to support your AI workload. But that means that your cost to market is going to be significant. So it's important to balance between the time to market versus cost to market to find optimum model. So let me give some context around when we talk about environment. If you look at the increase in computing power from 2012 to 2019, the increase is 300,000 times. Now let's look at what it means from the Gen AI perspective. If you look at running a single LLM training today now, we are talking about generating 284 metric tons of carbon dioxide. And that is significant. But for layman, let me give you some context to it. If you travel from New York City to Sydney, you're going to generate a lot of carbon. But for running a single LLM, you're talking about 41 round trip, New York City to Sydney. That is tremendous carbon that you can generate from there. And that's where Intel put a lot of significant focus around environment as one of the focus. Let me talk about what we're doing in the fundamental on manufacturing side. Today, almost 100% of our factory are running on renewable energy. And in US, Europe, Israel, Malaysia, China, Vietnam is 100% on renewable energy. Today, since 2020, we have saved almost 1.6 billion kilowatt hour on electricity based on this renewable energy. And we have acquired almost 38 billion kilowatt hour on renewable energy. And we're not going to stop here. We're going to continue to invest. As of today, we've got almost more than 100 projects trying to continue to invest in renewable energy. That's something we're trying to do back to the society for the goodness of human beings. Beyond just manufacturing side, we believe there are good practice around when we look into Gen AI. The first thing is, how do we drive the maximum value on the Gen AI creation? It is not enough just to continue to build high-dense data center. It's important to look at your current data center, your current compute environment. Can I reuse it? And it's important to align your LLM workload based on the computer architecture that can support you the best. Second practice we believe is, how do you refactor your LLM model? Not to build every LLM model from scratch. Build one and deploy everywhere. Refactor, whether you use it for the edge, use it for data center, use it for the core. The third thing is what we're doing all the time is to partner with ecosystem partner. There are many partners in this world here building LLM model. They are creating what we call the foundation model. Why not work with them, use the foundation model created there, fine-tune it, and deploy it based on your business case you're looking at. So it's important for you to start looking at the best practice to drive LLM model for your project. Let me take one step back and looking at the typical data pipeline. When you look at any of AI pipeline, you start with you trying to gather data, and then spend your time trying to build the right AI model to support the business case. And finally, deploy the model into the market. For any typical data scientist, we know that you spend 85% of the time on data and deploy. The model piece represents 10 to 15% of your actual work. So what does it mean when you start looking at the details? You can see these are the typical pipeline we see from the AI. At the data level, it is traditionally running on the traditional classic Xeon processor. You can do a fantastic job just on the classic CPU that Intel is having today. At the deployed level, more than 70% of workload can be deployed using traditional classic Xeon processor. There may be 30% that require a bit of the GPU-centric. From Intel's side, we have the AI accelerator solution, we call it Gaudi 3. We just launched it last month. And that gives you significant price performance advantage against our competitor. Give you a sense, we are pricing the Gaudi 3 at 50% of H100 from NVIDIA, and that delivered almost 2x performance against H100. So you can see the comparison here. We're talking about 4x performance improvement based on price performance. Now let's go down to where all the market focus on training the model. Look at it. Traditional machine learning model have been around for so long, before even we talk about GPU. They're running on Xeon processor. You don't need to spend money on the GPU just to support it. The only pieces that we feel that is really important for us to start looking at is the deep learning part. Here we're talking about billions of parameters, tens of billion parameters, and this is where the GPU makes sense. And for Intel side, we encourage you to look at our Gaudi 3 as a solution that gives you the best price performance. Now let me drill down a bit into one of the instances that is adopted by Cloud Kinetic for the solution, which is the one they launched last year, beginning this year. We call it Gen 7 instance from Amazon side. They're running on the 4th gen Intel Xeon processor. And the important part is that they're built in with the AI accelerator engine. And look at it, we are able to generate up to 10 times gen-to-gen model performance. And they actually can support more than 400 models that exist in the market today now. They give you the best solution to deploy in your current AI workload today. And what does this accelerator do? It actually focus on the deep learning requirement here. And each of these accelerators sit on every core within your processor and giving you the best TCO. It's at almost 5% of fractional cost of a GPU that you can subscribe for AWS. And running off all the supported framework, whether you talk about TensorFlow, PyTorch, or OpenVINOD. And not just give you the best performance on AI. We talk about 5x, 10x based on AI workload, analytic workload. In the traditional data science, enterprise application, it gives you up to 50%. So you can see that this gives you a good environment whereby running on Xeon, supporting various workloads within the organization. You don't need to spend specific money just on the GPU just to support an AI workload. And we're happy to sit down with you to understand your requirement and give you the right environment. And to summarize, we believe that it's for anybody to adopt the Gen AI environment, it's good for you to consider a lot more detailed data and technology. It's about what's the impact to the environment, how do you drive optimum time to market and cost to market. And for us, the best environment that you have to support your Gen AI workload is to create a hybrid environment so that you have both the classic CPU accelerator, and potentially AI accelerator to support your environment. Thanks for giving me the opportunity here to share the effort Intel had done on the AI.
Thanks, Jason. That was very informative. May I take the opportunity here to present the trio, also called the Power of Three, who will help you develop and deploy transformational generative AI applications. In this Power of Three is AWS, who, as we heard, has many of the building blocks and the foundational models along with enterprise-grade security necessary to power generative AI applications. The second vital part is Intel, as we have just heard, provides most of the hardware when it comes to being able to develop and deploy generative AI applications. And third, may I humbly introduce Cloud Kinetics as a partner who's committed to driving tangible business outcomes for you. Cloud Kinetics has extensive experience and expertise helping customers build modern data foundations and transformational generative AI applications. This experience and expertise will ensure that your time from data to insights is shortened and you're able to derive rapid value from developing and deploying secure, efficient, and transformational generative AI applications. Thank you for spending the time today listening to this. We hope that this was useful and it helps you advance in some meaningful manner on your generative AI journey. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them. We look forward to hearing from you.